All right, so let's talk about earnouts and why, when they're good, when they're bad, when they're good for buyers, when they're good for sellers, why they're often misunderstood or more commonly misused. And I do get people who come to me, they want to sell their business and they're kind of worried that the terms they've been given by a buyer are a little bit toxic, and is there anything they can do about it? And so there's really two ways that an earnout can and should be used. And most of the time, only the first way is what's used. And so that way is basically downside protection for the buyer. So let's say you have a business, it's profiting $1 million a year, and the agreed purchase price is $4 million, so 4 times multiple. And a buyer may say, okay, I'll give you 2 million up front, and if the business maintains its earnings, so it makes 1 million in the next year, I'll give you the other 2 million. But if it declines, let's say it only makes 750K, then I'll pay you 25% less. That's kind of the standard way of doing it. A lot of buyers use it to protect their downside. I think when it's okay for a buyer to use it to protect downside is if there's some question about some element of the business. So, for example, maybe there's a little bit too much client concentration, or maybe the seller is representing that the business is fine without them or without a key team member, and the buyer says, okay, well, let's see if the earnings hit what they're supposed to, then yeah, I'll pay you. But if they do decline, then I want to pay less. Um, and sometimes it's okay. Sometimes it's just buyers basically kind of taking advantage of sellers. And I think the reason a lot of sellers don't like it is because it's not really in their control what happens in the first year after the business is handed over to the buyer. Yeah, I mean, sure, if you've built a good business, it's going to be solid for the next year, but it's not necessarily within your control. And so, why should you necessarily, as a seller, take on that risk? Where I think earnouts are actually really good and really interesting for both me as a buyer or somebody else as a seller is when the earnout kind of rewards on the upside instead. So again, let's say there's a business for sale. It made $1 million in the last year. So as a buyer, I think, okay, this is worth 4 million or 3.5 million or something like that. And the seller thinks, okay, sure, yeah, it made 1 million last year, but I reinvested a ton of earnings back into growth. I just finished building this new thing. I think the business is going to grow a lot over the next year, but for various reasons, I kind of want to sell now. So I think the business is worth 6 million rather than 3.5 or 4. Now, as a buyer, if I agree with what the seller's saying, and I think, yeah, actually, you have put a lot of effort in, the business probably is going to grow over the next year. I agree with you that maybe it will be worth 6 million when it hits that. That's when you can use an earnout to reward on the upside. Because for me, I think, okay, sure, I believe you. I want the business to grow. That would be amazing. But I can't pay you for it now. What if it doesn't grow? And I've paid 6 million for a business that's really worth 3.5. Or what if what if it does grow but it doesn't grow enough, etc., etc. So that's where you say to them, okay, if that happens, I'll pay you for it, and I'll pay you the 6 million, and but I'm only going to guarantee 3.5 million, or again, whatever it is. Or maybe a seller wants to stay and retain some equity and stay and grow the brand with you, then that's even a better case scenario for both parties. And then you can say, yeah, sure, I'll reward you the upside. And you could put a cap on the earnout. You could make it unlimited. It just really depends on what the situation is, what you both think is fair, what you want to get out of it. But yeah, I think the point of this video is you shouldn't necessarily fear an earnout. It's not, a buyer who offers an earnout isn't necessarily doing it in bad faith, and it can be a great way for you to exit now but still get paid more in the long run. And I think, again, there's a lot of people I talk to who think, I kind of want to sell my business now, but I kind of think if I hold it for a year, it'll be worth more. I've already done all that work, so it's probably going to be worth more anyway. But maybe my life situation is I want to sell now, or maybe I'm ready to move on to the next thing now. What should I do? And that's how an earnout works. So just don't be creative. Understand that good negotiation is really about. It's not about who's going to win or who's going to lose. It's about how do we figure out a structure that makes both of us win, and protects both of us, rewards us for risk, and so on. And yeah, that's my tidbit for today.